Yes, first of all, thank you, Holly and Tina. It's quite moving listening to you both actually, and I just want to thank you both personally. Moving on from that, I just want to give a little bit more information about life in 1972, the year that the Government Act that has led to this ridiculous situation came into being. The average salary for a male manual worker was less than £2,000, but for women it was just over £1,000. The average house price was £7,000, and you could buy a brand new Ford Cortina for £1,020. Women could be refused a credit card, a mortgage or a loan if they weren't married, and it would be another 3 years before the Sex Discrimination Act came into being, making it illegal for women to be discriminated against in work or education. The same goes for the Employment Protection Act. It was another 3 years before that came into effect, which finally made it illegal for women to be sacked for being pregnant and allowed them to take maternity leave. Believe it or not, in 1972, women could also be refused service in pubs. Pocket calculators became available in the UK for the first time in 1972, but nobody would have any sort of home computer for another 7 years, and the World Wide Web would be invented for another 17 years. There were no mobile phones in the UK until 13 years after 1972, and the idea of meetings via video conferencing was something you wouldn't even have seen on tomorrow's world. It astounds me that a few, and it really is a few, residents think that a minor technicality, as has been mentioned already, nothing more than the failure to utter around a dozen words once, based on a law made in 1972, is more important than the work councillors do day in, day out. One has to question, and again this has been asked before, what actually is the motive? Is it because they care about Portishead? Because I fail to see how that behaviour benefits anyone in Portishead. Holly and Tina are two hard-working, dedicated and passionate town councillors who spend the entire period in question working on various projects, attending online meetings, both public and private meetings, and have quietly and diligently done the job they were elected to do. They don't plaster their achievements on social media, and they've never sought glory or recognition for the work they do, quite the opposite in fact, in both of their cases. Portishead Town Council as a whole, so councillors and staff, continue to work throughout the pandemic, during lockdowns and various random tier systems, utilising the wonders of modern technology, although some did find that more challenging than others. To enable meetings and day-to-day council work to continue, unlike many other councillors, including some of our immediate neighbours who shut down completely as soon as the first lockdown hit. Some councillors, and again staff, have attended online meetings whilst actually suffering from COVID. Some attended whilst shielding, as we've already heard, or living with vulnerable family members. Some attended whilst away from home caring for relatives, or whilst working away and actually staying in hotel rooms to keep their families safe. Some chaired meetings from hotel rooms. Some attended online as they were key workers in high COVID environments and wanted to protect others, all able to do so because of the technology in place. Any one of us here could so easily have fallen foul of this ridiculous rule, and it's actually only by sheer luck that those of us trying to protect ourselves and others haven't. I could actually talk for much longer extolling the virtues of both councillors mentioned tonight, but instead I want to share something that happened very recently, which is extremely pertinent. Tina and I, amongst others, were at one of the recent neighbourhood plan information sessions here in the Folk Hall on a Saturday afternoon, and a lovely older lady came in to speak with us. Tina went to the front of the room to chat to her and answered all of her questions about the plan, showing her the documents and talking her through them, and I popped over at one point to join the conversation. The lady in question started talking about how she wasn't sure who her councillors were or how to contact them, as she has no access to the internet, and also only occasionally receives a local paper. So we all talked together about the difficulties in keeping in touch with everyone and how best we could manage that. Tina immediately volunteered her own telephone number and said she could call her at any time about anything, but also took the lady's telephone number and address to pass on to the relevant ward councillors after telling her who they were. I should add that the lady had already asked Tina about the fact she was on crutches, and Tina had explained her condition and her recent surgery to her when she first arrived. As she stood up to leave with the paperwork that Tina had talked her through, that she was taking away to look through, the lady said how extremely grateful she was for all of Tina's help and how she'd enjoyed chatting to her. She then said, "So what's happening about these other councillors then, the ones who couldn't be bothered to turn up for meetings?" Couldn't be bothered. A phrase she'd read in the local paper apparently directly quoted from a resident. Tina very politely and very calmly said, well, actually, you're talking to one of them. And the lady could not have been more apologetic. Tina wasn't even able to finish a sentence explaining how she'd had to shield during the pandemic before the lady was apologising profusely and saying that, of course, everybody's circumstances are different, and she fully understood why Tina couldn't make meetings in person. As well as apologising, she said it just shows how important it is that we shouldn't judge people purely by what we read. And she was actually extremely shocked that such a statement had been quoted when it was very clear that Tina was the polar opposite of someone who couldn't be bothered. Those same few residents will, I no doubt, be pushing for a by-election to be held. And to them, I will say this. It's the financial cost to the town that the same residents are constantly complaining about whenever a new member of staff is recruited or when councillors have resigned in the past, really worth it for the sake of what will likely be not much more than 9 months before the next election. Again, one has to question the motive of someone who spends their time constantly criticising something that they later actively encourage. What exactly are they trying to achieve? Thank you.